What is up, everybody? It is, of course, your boy, Andrew Esquire, American attorney living over here in Asia, which is relevant to today's topic. And of course, we're doing a live today. We're doing a live. I just recorded a fast fact, so there will be a fast fact that's coming up later with edits and with some of the choice video in it. We'll go over a little bit more video in the live. We'll see if it doesn't. We're multi-streaming now, so we should be theoretically on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick at the same time right now. So if everything is working properly and there's no issues, we should be on all of them. So I also want to give a little special shout out to the Kick staff because today we got fast tracked for for monetization, which is amazing. I had a conversation with the staff. We talked over, it's just they addressed any concerns I would have. We talked over some different logistics. Really nice to have a real human that responds quickly and talks to you, unlike YouTube, which is a mysterious black box, which is messing with creators right now, downing the numbers, not sending out notifications. A lot of people are having this problem, not just myself. And it's a major thing, which, once again, brings out the highlights of other platforms. Now, I will give a little mini announcement here is that going forward, I may do some platform specifics. We're going to get probably monetized on Twitch after today because we'll hit certain metrics. So that'll be good. But definitely for Kick, I'm going to do some exclusive content there. Maybe some different stuff. I'm thinking about different ideas. So that may be something that's coming in the future for that. But yeah, it's good to see everybody on all the platforms. And of course, I'm getting all the messages here. And thank you for the subs over there. Shadow 1869 dropping some on Kick. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate you guys very, very much for all the support. And everybody over there on all of the platforms. So thank you for that, Shadow 1869 over there on Kick. Thank you. Also, what do we got here? On YouTube, Jeremy Bewer, 57 and 56, has followed them both. Oriental Pearl seems more humble, and she helped a friend raise money for their cancer fight before they passed. And so today, I want you guys to know I am going to be focusing on the legal issues, but I will give you some context as it relates to this argument. So I am going to give some context about the personal details of these people. But the reason why I'm doing that is it relates to the legal implications, and it relates to their positions on the thing which is subject to the legal battle. So I neither take a strong position on Abroad in Japan or Oriental Pearl. Frankly, before I started researching this, I didn't even know who Oriental Pearl was. That said, everybody should realize that I no longer really consume Japanese content other than information like my good friend Josh of Inaka Adventure, who's doing stuff that's kind of off the beaten path that you really won't find in like a remedial Japanese course, which, or Japanese YouTube video, which is really for people that are new to Japan, have never been to Japan, or just interested in Japan. Maybe you're a weeb, maybe you like Japanese culture. Then a lot of the more remedial stuff is very interesting to you. But for me, because I've been here for so long, stuff like, getting the best outdoors, right? Or outdoors videos that, for example, my good friend Josh did one over here. Surviving Japan's greatest outdoor destination, the Michinoku Trail. Really amazing video. Something that, frankly, if you're new to Japan, you may not be as, interested. You haven't even been to Tokyo yet or something. Then maybe that's not for you. Of course, he has videos on Osaka, Tokyo, etc. But this one, if you're really somebody who wants to go and do something different and not be like everybody else, you'd check out content like that. And this is an amazing, a factually amazing and beautiful video by Josh there on Inaka Adventure. But that said, I did watch, and we'll talk about this when we get into the parties. I did watch before I came into Japan, before I'd ever been to Japan. I did watch some Abroad in Japan videos, particularly because I was thinking, okay, how do I want to do this? Do I want to do a language school? Do I want to teach for a little while and get a visa through teaching and then go and transition? So before I'd come to Japan, that was something that was of interest to me. Of course, I watched many channels then that were related to Japan, not just that specific channel, but it's one that's pretty well known in the Japan content sphere. Wolfie Canham, thank you so much for the members for 5 months and the litigators. Thank you for that. Also, I will say, I think I've added the new emotes to YouTube. I have to double check. But I'm going to make sure to add those across platform. I think I set up the emotes on Twitch maybe, and then we'll work on the kick stuff as well. But we're slowly working on all the platforms. Slowly, my plan is working. So we're going to be having a good time. We're going to be having a good time. Let's see here. Do I got everybody? Perfect. Let's see. Okay. So let me check on this. Legal Mindset on time, impossible. So digitally on locals. No, I'm actually on time. Oh, on the main page of Kick. That's freaking awesome. That's awesome. How do you feel about the classic Weird Al song, I'll Sue You? That's a good one. That's a funny one. Weird Al's great. Weird Al's underappreciated. Yeah, Meme Copium, great dude, great channel. But a lot of people don't know he's got a second channel, Inaka Adventure. Inaka means countryside, which is just about Japan. He's a great filmographer, right? Okay, so let's get into this legal battle here and what's going on with this one. So we've got two parties here. And I'm going to start presenting my information like a case, right? So we're going to start setting this up on most of this versus like a trial, right? So we've got the parties. We're going to have the opening statement. We're going to have the evidence, the counter evidence, the rebuttal, and we're going to have the judgment, right? The closing, right? So yeah, that's how we're gonna deal with that. Okay, so let's get this right here. All right, so let's get the two parties, right? So here we go. We got party number one. Yeah, you didn't get a notification. Well, a lot of people don't get notifications. That's a YouTube problem. Party number one, defendant is Chris Broad, abroad in Japan. He's got 3.28 million subscribers, 321 videos. He's a massive channel. Like an absolutely massive channel. A lot of people know this guy, and a lot of people know his content. His real name is Chris Broad, which is why it's abroad in Japan, right? Obviously. Now, I'll get into this when we get into politics and the political position because it does play in. But just to be clear, Chris is friends with a lot of the quote unquote bigger content creators in the Japanosphere, including like Connor VA. Also, okay, shout out because I know he's trying to think Senpai does not ignore you. He gets to you eventually, right? Corpus Delecti gifted 25 subscriptions. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. Okay, someone asked if I have any comments for Bong Bong. I have no comments for Bong Bong. But thank you, Corpus Delicti, for dropping on Kick 25 subs. Absolutely based. Appreciate you, brother. And thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. All right. Let's see. Got that there. Okay. Let's see what we got. Okay, I think I got that. Just making sure I'm checking every single page. Someone says Andrew's a potato on Twitch. That is not inaccurate. Okay. So that's Chris Broad. We got him over here. We'll get into him a little bit more. Whether or not, people are saying, oh, he doesn't speak Japanese, etc. That's not really as relevant until it gets to kind of the analysis that he might have. Because you have to understand that there's something in particularly Japan, but it also exists in Korea in a different way called the gaijin bubble, which is when you hang out mainly with Westerners. So you're in Japan and you're hanging out with mostly Westerners. So that is a different perspective than a person who is hanging out with the locals, who's hanging out with Japanese people. And it's a big thing too if you have a partner who is Japanese, right? And I say partner because whether you're male or female and whatever sexual orientation, it really doesn't matter, right? You are the people you hang around. You are the product of the 5 people closest to you. And the 5 people closest to you are all Westerners who happen to be living in Japan. You're going to have a much different perspective than if you're a person who is hanging out with real Japanese people. And as someone who has been to Japan, who's hung out with real Japanese people, dated Japanese girls, right? And I've hung out at izakayas with Japanese salarymen, heard what they really think. And they say some base stuff. I mean, they say some really base stuff, but it's much different than the perspective you're going to have as a foreigner because you don't grow up there. You don't have the same culture. You don't have the same roots. And you don't have the same objectives, right? You don't have the same objectives. What if you're a hermit? Well, you're gonna have a really skewed opinion if you're a hermit. All right, here's Oriental Pearl, Alyssa Studebaker. So Oriental Pearl, she, and I'll read this here. She's got 1.41 million subs. So by no condition, by no criteria is she a small YouTuber. So I wouldn't say that Abroad in Japan is picking on a small YouTuber. She's a significant YouTuber. She's smaller than Abroad in Japan, which is relevant to the content creator battle and relevant to my analysis of, okay, is this legit or not? Or, okay, is she really going to do something about this or not? I frankly think of the two parties, the smaller party typically has something to gain because they have more ability to punch up, to take some of those subs away, or to, snatch over some of those subs to give exposure. I didn't know who she was until today. And honestly, if this had not happened, I probably wouldn't know who she is, because after looking at the type of content that she makes, it is the type of content that at this point I wouldn't watch, because I already live in Asia, and there's not really something that is new or exciting to me as someone who lives in Asia, who knows Japanese content creators, both in Japan, here in Thailand, in Malaysia, Singapore, a lot of other places where these content creators live. I'm interested in deeper topics and more niche stuff. But that said, she has a lot of clout in what's called the polyglot sphere. So professional language learned, living in Asia for 13 years. She knows multiple languages. So that's a thing. Felzu said she's a broad in Japan. Waka waka. I'll be here all week. Okay. Objection. Dad jokes are I see you there. Okay. Making sure I got everybody here. All right, so we got her. She's the plaintiff. We're going to flame her as the plaintiff. Okay, here's the opening arguments, and then we'll get into some of the evidence and show you some of the evidence. So Oriental Pearl's argument, her opening statement, is that Chris Broad, abroad in Japan, potentially committed defamation by misrepresenting her interaction with the homeless as laughing at them or mocking them, rather than the genuine context of fleeing awkward, and there's the S word in there, harassment. I guess I refilled the swear jar a little bit, so I changed the some of the small bots out for 10 bot coins. So we'll put a little in there, and I'll say sexual harassment, right? It's and that is potential defamation, right? That's a legal claim. Now let's look at Chris Broad's argument. Chris Broad's argument is Pearl was misrepresenting the homeless situation and overall situation in Japan. So large content creators deserve a degree of scrutiny and correction. Misconstruing reality deserves to be called out. Now, I actually agree with Chris, but part of this blows back on him. I do actually agree, and we'll get into a lot of the content out there and show you some of the problems. But there is a problem with Japanese content, and that is people are depicting Japan as if it's London, Chicago, San Francisco, or LA. It's not, right? And anybody who tells you that anywhere in Japan is even close to the situation in the West, in America, or in Europe is crazy. They're smoking something, and it's probably laced with LSD, right? It is absolutely not accurate to say that Japan has descended into chaos. Have certain things gotten a little bit worse? Maybe. Yeah, that's arguable. Yeah, but it's nowhere near what we'd see in the West. But here's the problem. The core of the claim here isn't just about the state of everything in Japan. It's about the actual statement and the misrepresentation of that statement, right? So let's talk about the evidence. This is the first part. We're going to show some video here. There is a potentially defamatory depiction of Oriental Pearl, and despite the blurring in Abroad in Japan's video, which is entitled "What is Happening in Japan" or "What is Happening to Japan," despite the blurring, it's obvious. It's freaking obvious where who this is, right? It's completely obvious. This to me. Once again, you're blurring it. You're not saying her name, but that's not protecting you from defamation. Not even close, right? Not even sort of close. So let's show some of the videos and show you guys some of the video here. Let me drop this here, related to what Oriental Pearl said. So here's one little clip from her ex about what is happening to Japan. So let's play this one. This is some from Oriental Pearl's account. So I'm going to play this from her first. We got our Free Palestine graffiti, which, you know. Somebody's spitting in the background. That is kind of funny, actually. Some graffiti. Some graffiti there. Some graffiti there. A little bit of trash, which, you know, once again, very uncommon in Japan. But you go to some areas like Kabukicho or Sekigahara, you're going to find that. So, okay, there's some graffiti. There's some trash. Yeah, there's some graffiti and some trash. It's not nearly at the level, once again, it's not nearly at the level of any other place. And understand, this is in very specific neighborhoods in Japan. It is not in the countryside. It's not in most secondary cities. It's not in most, you know, in most places you would go out and walk around in Japan. You're not going to see massive amounts of graffiti like it's America. And by the way, my take on graffiti, and this is my like legal stance on graffiti, is graffiti is, especially for private property, is a bad thing, and it should not be promoted and should be punished. However, I do think there should be acceptable public places to do graffiti, right? For example, in my college town, there was a wall where you could do whatever art you wanted, including graffiti. So if you wanted to go and graffiti that up, you could. There are also sometimes parks that are designated as graffiti parks, and you can do what you want there. I think that's a cool idea. I think that's a way to allow it as artistic expression. But I do think that graffiti that is just put up without permission in a place that's private property is not good and should be punished, right? That's my general take there. Alexis Artemis Green Howard the first gifted 5 Legal Mindset memberships. Thank you so much. Yes. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's see here. Someone said, okay, over here, kick streamer who housed Johnny Somali had a woman who was staying in a house die mysteriously. I guess I'll look into that one. Maybe it's a future cold case. Check that out. All right. So this is the piece that was misrepresented by Chris. So let's show the misrepresentation of Chris. And somebody said, who watches these people? Millions of people. This video by Chris Broad, let me show it to you right here. This video has 3.7 million views. Okay. 3.7 million views. So who watches them? 3.7 million people. That's who, right? Maybe you guys don't. And according to the poll, let's look at the poll here. 46% of you have watched Abroad in Japan. Only 5% have watched Oriental Pearl. 16% have watched both. So more have watched both than watched Pearl exclusively. And then 32% neither. So the majority of you have watched at least one of them, right? You've heard of them, watched one of them or both, right? So the majority of you have actually watched and consumed that content, which is a thing. By the way, before we go any further, today's beer is Tiger. If we do hit that goal, which we're making it towards a goal, we got our Tiger beer here. We also, Mudang has a Tiger hat today. So, you know, if we want Eye of the Tiger, which I will indeed finish before the stream is on, if we hit the goal, you guys can contribute towards that. Eye of the Tiger beer. It's a lager since 1932. Shout out to Singapore, right? Even though this is brewed in Nontamburi, right? They license it out and the Thais brew it locally. Very smart, very smart. But yes, Tiger beer. Not sponsoring me, just the thing I'm going to drink if we hit the goal. That's all. Charlie Spur says, yo, Horse Monkey, thank you. Appreciate that. And Edward Hayden drops 2. Thank you so much. Appreciate that over there. Let's see. Appreciate all y'all. Okay. So let's get to this video here. Here's the clip I want you guys to see.
This creator has produced A few years ago, a friend showed me a clip of a video in which the same person walked through an economically deprived part of Tokyo filming homeless people under the guise of showing the real Japan, filming the most vulnerable.
Okay, now this lovely gentleman here is very key to this. Remember, he's talking about it like, oh, it's an economically deprived place. Okay.
People in society and posting it online. Like, I've had Japanese friends tell me this sort of stuff makes them feel uncomfortable. Beyond that, it sort of portrays Japan as this magical place where there's a barrier between us, where if you speak Japanese, they will bounce around, they will scream and shout, it will cure depression, as if the entire country is one big social experiment waiting to be exploited. And I worry, in an era of nuisance content creators coming to Japan doing things that are unspeakably bad, they might see this sort of content and go, wow, you get $1,500 for that. Maybe start to wave cameras around in the faces of homeless people, potentially leading to even more nuisance content. And when the cost of making such content is nothing, but the profits are extraordinary, the only real thing stopping you from doing that is morals. And as we've seen time and again with streamers in Japan, morals are often in short supply. And coupled with the fact there's...
literally, hold on. Let's go back here. Who do we got right there? Who do we got right there?
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?
You can argue that perhaps the worst comparison you could make to somebody is saying that Oriental Pearl is Johnny Somali, right? Because that is probably like that's defamatory in and of itself, right? In and of itself, to say that our boy Ramzi Khalid Ismail is the same as Oriental Pearl. That is actually in and of itself defamatory. Right? Because remember, he's a criminal in Japan. He's banned, blacklisted from Japan, and he's facing criminal charges over there. The Cabbage Boy is facing that in Korea. So that's that is pretty bad. That is pretty bad, and to imply that is definitely an implication, a criminal implication. You're making an implication that somebody is a criminal nuisance streamer. Right? That's not good. That's definitely not good. And that's very, very problematic. And furthermore, you're making the insinuation that she's exploiting these homeless people or some way demeaning them or mocking them. And that she is a nuisance streamer, right? That's the implication there. I think a nuisance streamer is somebody very, very specific. And I think, to me, that's somebody that is openly violating the laws, right? Knows that they're laws and being like, F you, I'm going to do these laws no matter what. That's a nuisance streamer, right? Or somebody that is openly attacking the culture, right? Oriental Pearl's not really doing that. People can call her sensationalist. That's fair. If they want to call her that, that's an opinion. They can call her a grifter. Well, everybody who's making social media can be called a grifter, right? And they can make fun of her politics, her positions, etc. They can say she's a shill. That's all perfectly fine. But when you're implying that somebody is engaging in what is criminal activity or potentially criminal activity, that crosses a line towards the defamation, right? That's moving it towards that legal standard, which we're going to talk about that real quick here. Inspector 7000 says, fun fact, Chris was on Japanese TV after the whole Logan Paul Force video, which was crazy. He appeared there to clear up YouTube's rep and show they aren't like Logan. Dude was asked live, are you a YouTuber? That's actually funny. I like that. YouTuber. Whenever I have to tell people I'm a YouTuber, it's like YouTuber. Garrett Griffin says, hey, Legal Minds, had $1 for every letter in the name Tiger. Well, thank you, Tiger. Might be drinking in a second. I'm here for the scuff. Says, where's Tokyo's Skid Row? They don't have us. It's not like there's not a Skid Row on the level of what you'd see in LA, right? For example, in Korea, if you go by Seoul Station, that's a kind of the congregation of homeless people, but they're harmless. It's not even close to Skid Row. They're not trading drugs in the open. It's not like kind of a no-go zone, etc. It's largely just walk through it and you're just fine. In fact, many areas in Japan, when I'm there, the homeless are sweeping the streets and like cleaning the area around their encampment around they are. They're really not a problem. Tien's Fury for 11 euros says, I'm so sick of Chris holier than thou attitude. Seriously, just listening to them gives me the creeps. The end of the virtue signaling in sight is hopefully love your videos. And I'm not telling you how to feel about them. I certainly can empathize with that and understand that. One thing is when you're the biggest fish and you kind of know it, or you're one of the biggest fish in the Japan content sphere, you kind of know it. You do get that attitude of like, I'm up here now. But, I think it's important to stay humble and remember that everybody starts in somewhere. I mean, right now, I've got hundreds of thousands on YouTube, but I've only got a couple hundred on Twitch and Kick. So I'm a little guy too, right? And you got to remember, everybody starts as a little guy on a platform and then comes up later, right? Speaking of coming up later, thank you. Who joined over there? Edmund84, who subscribed for 1 month on Kick. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Also, congrats on the first time chatter over there. Ice Cream Man 661 on Twitch. We out here. I'm out here too. Arkansas Plain Watcher said, morning, Legal Daddy in the chat. Well, good morning to you too, or evening over here in Bangkok. Cool Kid said, Chris and his hate band, Johnny Somali, they're verbal about him. And look, can't we all unite on that? On no matter what platform we're on, can't we all unite in saying that, we're all against the Ramsey Khalida Smiles of the world. We're all against that, right? Billy Oak said, Pearly Somali. That's right. Nene 5829 says, abroad in Japan X Johnny Somali crossover. So glad I turned in. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too. It's been a blessing to be on all these platforms. Morpheus for 1,000 yen says, watch both for years. Broad went from great on the ground content to sponsor sim, bar, eSIM, etc. Pro was always a reactor creator, but lately it's even more edited for emotion reactions. And I get it. Look, I'm going to have a little bit more sponsorships on the channel. I'm going to try to vet them and make sure they're like decent. But, as you grow, you just have to do different things. In the beginning, for example, I can tell you guys, I did everything myself. I kind of didn't have any team, whatever. Now I got to have a team. Now I got to do things to grow. But the thing is, you've got to remember where you came from, your community, and you've got to remember why you're doing the content in the first place. And it's not just about the money. It can never be just about the money. It's Ivor for 5 says, was the impotence for this video Think Before You Sleep's rebuttal? I'm going to play that right now. So we're not playing the whole thing. I did watch Think Before You Sleep's rebuttal. I'm going to take what I think is the key part of the rebuttal, which is very, very important context. Garrett Griffith says something meeting the same people on your way down you met the way up. Yeah, something like that. All right, let's play Think Before You Sleep's video. Now, Think Before You Sleep is a friend of Oriental Pearl, I believe. And he had a video, Japan's Biggest Liar, which was rebutting Chris Broad. So let's play the relevant part here where this scene, and remember that old guy, right? Remember that old guy? He's going to come back here. So let's see this.
That Alyssa made. So for context, let me show you where that audio comes from. In this situation, while she's filming, a homeless guy calls her over to talk to her. They talk for a bit, and this is how the conversation ends.
どういう意味ですかどういう意味だから夜やるんかセックスオンリー2万円2万円って2万円やらせろ
Okay, hold on. We got to figure out what the price is there. Okay, so he's offering $127. He's offering $127 there for a proposition. Now, mind you, let me give you a little Japan legal education. It's not illegal in Japan to pay for services as long as they cannot lead to procreation, right? Because that's the definitive thing there. So that's actually the legal standard in Japan. So as long as they're not engaging in anything that could lead to procreation, then technically this man is not doing anything that is against the law in Japan. Just saying. That is indeed a man. Right? Yeah. By the way, the yen is going down, guys. That's a serious problem in Japan. Japan has some serious problems. Okay. Yes. So no breeding. Yes. No breeding.
何買うんですか
お前よバカ野郎やらせろ一発 If you don't know what procreation is, please Google it. Okay. We're trying to educate you here, but not on everything. This is not the birds and the bees class. All right. Unbound Valkyrie drops soju. Thank you for that. And I'll put one in I'll put a bot in the swear jar for that one. You get a swear jar emoji. Edward Bentel 5665 says, Kiro, pronunciation yellow from abroad in Japan. Thank you. And Sarcastro 78 says, will any of this affect Japan exporting Tamagotchi? Every time Tamagotchi.
No. Wait.
I'm glad that trend is dead. Okay, let's continue with the etchy Japanese man.
No. Oh my gosh, this is a rough area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. ちょっとやばい話です。Yeah,
Give me an
大丈夫で
estimate.
す。
He really wants an estimate.
So the audio that Chris used comes from her talking to a homeless person, and the clip of her laughing is actually her laughing uncomfortably because she was being sexually harassed. Chris decided to cut that up and put it with different B-roll to make it look like she was laughing at homeless people. I mean, that kind of sounds like defamation, buddy. And I know he's aware that what he did was wrong because he cut it out of the video. This is what the video looks like now.
A few years ago, a friend showed me a clip of a video in which the same person walked through an economically deprived part of Tokyo filming homeless people under the guise of showing the real Japan.
It was in the video, and now it's not. So Chris, who is Mr. Morals, cut this moment out in the YouTube editor after people noticed what he did.
So that's what the call out is there. So saying, hey, that piece, that slice was cut out, and obviously that could be defamatory, right? A Chinese person said, no breeding, no. Well, I mean, there's breeding, but not transactional breeding, right? Not transactional breeding. Okay. Although maybe Japan will change that to get the birth rates up. Anyways, let's put that there. Okay, let's continue here. Defamation. Oh, and by the way, this is actually a really good comment. This clip should be blurred. Old man being embarrassed. He's not there mentally. This is going to come up later when I talk about Japanese privacy laws. And this is actually a big issue. And I think Pearl needs to be careful with this. So I'm going to bring that one up later because that's a law that is very, very important. Also for any streamers, including nuisance streamers, this is the law. This is a law that, once again, Japan has not used yet aggressively because Japanese people are very nice. But in a situation in which a Japanese person is very mad, they can use their privacy laws, including their laws about appearance of their face without consent, to come down on people. And what you don't want to be is that test case for that. King Lugia for 30 Malaysian ringgit says, please give a burb and bees stream. Procreation for education, or it's education for procreation. Maybe we'll do that on Kick because that's going to be pretty unhinged if we have a procreation one. YouTube might knock me for doing that one. Sure. We'll do Andrew's legal education about procreation. Fellows who says, Kinpatsu anime girl, you enjoy your night. Praise be Karen Kuju. I actually don't know what the hell you're talking about, but thank you for that, Felzu. Maybe I have to educate myself. Alexis also gifted a 150. Is that MKD? Is that Macedonia? Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Okay, let's get in a legal standard. Defamation in Japan requires only 3 elements, and they're very simple. They're so simple, which is why you really have to be careful in Japan. And why, for example, I've said this before, Hassan could not live in Japan. He would be hit with defamation so fast because of his statements and how they would hit this, like not even just one stream, right? When he's a local. A public allegation. So anything online is public. So you don't have to like yell it in a public square, like just making a comment, making a tweet, anything can be public. Even a Google review. There's actually a case law where Google reviews, bad Google reviews, have counted as defamatory, and they've actually gotten them removed. So that's how serious public allegations are. And then an allegation of fact. So it has to be implying something is true. So implying that she is being demeaning or harassing or laughing at the homeless, or implying that she is Ramzi Khalid Ismail, right? That's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's not saying they're bad, etc. It's saying like, no, you're, criminal. You're doing something that's negative. And the last part, which is the most important, is you're defaming another's reputation. But the way it's defined in Japan is objectively lowering their social standing or honor, right? Or honor. So that is something that will make sure that will make sure to point out, because honor is a concept in Japan that perhaps we don't have in the West, right? We don't have a word for honor, or really a conceptual honor in the law, but it is dishonorable to mock people of lower social standing, including the homeless. So absolutely, there is a case there for Pearl that Pearl's honor was damaged by this. I think that's pretty clear. Now, I will say this: truth is not a defense, but there is an exception. Now, Chris Broad, abroad in Japan, would probably, if there was a case, would probably say it would fall under the public interest exception, right? Which is Article 232 of Japanese law. So what Chris would have to prove is this is a statement related to a matter of public interest. It was solely for the public benefit, and the facts proven to be true. So he would have to say, hey, look, this issue was really about the homeless. She's lying about the homeless. The homeless aren't a big problem. And, this is true. He might be able to win on that. Maybe. But the tough part is that the context is really not about whether homelessness is true or not. It's about the context being a sexual one, a sexual harassment scenario versus something different, right? So that's where this one might be questionable, but it is possible, right? It's a possible defense. Now, let's talk about some of the stuff you guys want me to talk about, because I know everyone wants to talk about this stuff. Everyone wants to talk about the other stuff, and it is relevant to motive. So it goes to motive in this creator battle. So I'm going to talk about some of the non-legal but relevant as to motive issues between the parties. And I know this is going to get divisive. And understand, guys, I can agree with somebody's politics, but still think they're going to lose or rather not have a strong legal case. And I think you guys know this about me, is that I am intellectually honest about people's legal cases, even if I would otherwise agree with, let's say, their politics or their stances or et cetera, what they're doing. Like, I can say, hey, I like this person, but they're still wrong and they still might go to jail, right? Bring back Duels to First Blood. That would be funny. Ray Danino said, aren't you risking getting banned if you cover RKS on Twitch or Kick? I think you can't talk about banned members. I'm not sure that's the rule. I'll talk with staff on both of those, but we'll get to that. That's in February, so no rush on that. No rushing with anything, really, guys. We take it nice and slow. Political dynamics. I am indeed, but why are people saying I'm not wearing pants? I am indeed wearing pants. Now, they may be sweatpants, but I'm not going to say whether or not what type of pants they are. I'm indeed wearing pants. Okay. And thank you for all these comments. I see the more degenerate ones are coming from Kick, so thank you. But also thank you, Nutmut, who subscribed for 1 month on Kick. Appreciate that. Appreciate you over there nutting with the mutts on Kick. Objection. All right. Let's get into political dynamics. So Chris Broad is left-leaning. He's anti-Trump, and he has a Western partner, meaning he has a much different perspective than Pearl or than other people. And once again, he's in that gaijin bubble. He's got a more left-leaning more left-leaning social circle. And I know maybe Pearl was talking at some point about not being in your social circle. That's fine. I mean, I think to me, a smaller social circle is better. There's a lot of people that say hi to me in Bangkok, and I say hi back, and maybe sometime I'll get, a coffee or a dinner or get a beer with them, but that doesn't mean you're in my social circle. And, you have no obligation to be friends with everybody in Japan and to invite them all to your parties. And there certainly are people you're just not going to get along with and not going to be in your social circle. I think it's important to be, friendly with everyone, but that doesn't mean to be friends with everyone. There's a big difference, right? You can just be acquaintances or like loose friends, and that's okay. You don't have to be best bros with everybody. But Pearl, she appears to be more right-leaning, and she appears to be religious, and she has a Japanese partner. And that's going to give you a different perspective than somebody who has a Western partner. It just is, right? It just is. And this is also a content creator battle. Now, it always draws interest when these content creators clash, and both are big YouTubers, but comparatively, Chris is bigger. And I came up with this theory, and this is a theory that I've kind of stuck to for a while, that if there is a content creator battle between two, there's usually a David and Goliath. There's usually a smaller one and a bigger one. And it never benefits you if you are the larger content creator to punch down unless there is a very significant reason to do so, right? Especially if you're going to attack them like Chris did, like he specifically brought her up called her out and attacked her. Now, she's not a small content creator, but I think this was a bad strategic move on his part. He could have just answered and done a whole video on how homelessness is not a real problem in Japan without ever even bringing her up. And frankly, if you look at the chat, we're almost 50, actually more than that, 60% of you have known abroad in Japan, and only, sub 20% knew who Oriental Pearl was. You can see that she got way more exposure out of this. And at the end of the day, sometimes bad press is press, right? You're getting yourself out there. And that's the intent. That's the intent. And the other thing is, and this is very important, guys, there's a lot of influencers who profit by misleading ignorant Western weebs. Yes, I'm calling you out, weebs. I know you're going to be mad.
Emotional cabbage.
But a lot of weebs out there are getting fooled, and a lot of Japan lovers are seeing these issues from accounts about Japan's decline that are not real. Japan has rampant issues, but it does not have mass immigration or rampant homelessness akin to the West. Now, I've called this out, and I'll throw up one account here, and you guys probably are familiar with this one. This is a famous one. I've called this one out. This old fool here. Over on YouTube, we got good old Cog over here, who's always tweeting about how horrible Japan is, but account based in Europe using European Android app. These are like the typical people, the typical accounts that will cry and whine about the decline of Japan, but they don't actually live there. For Pearl's credit, though, she did actually make a funny joke, and this was actually funny. Where she said, since I'm a Russian spy sent to destroy Japan's reputation, I will confess, I did all the graffiti on the news across Japan. I have North Korea on call to press the red button if abroad in Japan continues exposing me. I never said Japan is over, but it will be now. This is actually funny. This was actually a funny troll. And I you know what? I give her some points for that. I give her some points for that.
A sin. I cannot absolve you. Mega based.
Doing a North Korea troll is always appreciated. I always appreciate that, at least. So what do I think some of Japan's like actual problems are, right? Some like real shit, because Japan has issues. Japan has real freaking issues. Real issues in Japan. Debt to GDP, right? So you've got the highest public debt in the world. This is like unbelievable and will cause a problem at some point, right? Like that's a real problem. Old people. They're 30%. 30% of the population is elder. 30% of the population. And I will tell you this right now, and this is something talking to Japanese people, they want out. The yen is one of the only currencies that's like falling massively against the dollar, which is why they have so much tourism. My Thai friends are wanting to visit Japan because it's so cheap right now. Everybody wants to go to Japan because it's so cheap right now, comparatively in Asia, right? This is more of a problem for them than mass migration or homelessness. It's actually just rude tourists. And a lot of times those rude tourists, it's not the Islamic immigration of Europe or the Central or South American. It's mostly they complain, and this is just me being based and saying what Japanese people say. They mostly complain about the Chinese tourists, right? If you ask them who they complain about, it's not Americans. It's mostly the Chinese tourists, right? If you really know, like that's what they complain about the most, right? And that's just what it is, right? If you talk to actual Japanese people. We are 2 chats away from the goal. This Tiger beer is not going to drink itself. It's not going to drink itself, right? And once again, that's like very easy to get. Okay, let's go right here. Counterclaim. Japanese. You speak Japanese. This is a very interesting one, right? So, this is a law that I think Pearl might be violating. Now, Chris Broad did not bring this up. I'm bringing this up. And other Japanese content creators have mentioned this to me. So Pearl did something questionable. She went out and interviewed children without their parents' consent, or really seeming the consent of the guardian or who was with them, right? So this is a potential problem because under Japanese privacy laws, you need to have the consent of parents. And now Japanese rarely enforce this, but as a long-term resident, she should know better, right? She should know better. And it doesn't matter if the video is in the middle of the street. You cannot, once again, even in public, under the privacy laws, you can't do that. And this is one of her biggest videos. So once again, this is the point. Someone said kids are off limits. It's the point at which content creators need to realize these are legal issues, like real legal issues. It's not a fake legal issue. And just because you've gotten away with it doesn't mean you're going to perpetually get away with it. So, Pearl, by bringing more attention to herself, is now raising to people that maybe didn't see it before and might now have a problem and say, hey, wait a second, you shouldn't have done that, right? And the reason why Chris blurred her face is probably because of Japanese privacy laws. And he may be a little bit more well aware of those than Pearl, which is a very interesting angle, which really nobody was talking about legally before. But it needs to be raised. Kathy Swamp Queen for 10 says, Merry Christmas from the Swamp Puppies and me. Thank you. King Lugia for 15 Malaysian ringgit. Oh, the mainland Chinese tourists, their behavior shames us Chinese across the world. And by the way, I'm not not all Chinese people. I have many Chinese friends that are very respectful. Oh, I said the F word. Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. All right. I have many Chinese friends that are very respectful people. They're very cool when they come places. When they visit me in Thailand, they're super cool. Most people are nice. But I'm just telling you, if you sit down and get a Japanese salaryman or salarywoman drunk and you start asking them what they have a problem with and the type of tourists they have a problem with, it's not Americans, right? They don't, certainly Americans aren't the first thing they'd say. Maybe they'll say, well, the American nuisance streamers, have to clean up too. Maybe they'd mention that eventually, but it's not their first topic. So that's very, very important. You have to be strategic with your racism. You can't just blanket racism, right? You got to be surgical. And over here in Asia, we're a little bit more surgical with our racism. Joshua Simons, 9887 for €5 says, Abroad in Japan could be a hit series. That'd be funny. Chris should get a full back tattoo and go full Yakuza. Oji-san made for content if he loses. Fun fact, the Yakuza is actually dying. Because while they had a monopoly on physical violence, most crime right now is not actually physical violence. It's actually more cyber, more online, more identity theft, etc. So a lot of the Japanese underworld is actually going online. And what is the transition is, instead of these large organizations, it's sort of like gig work. It's like criminal gig work. There's another word for it in Japanese. And a lot of the Yakuza are either dying out or they're having to adapt to this new model of crime. So it's very, very interesting, the kind of death of the Yakuza. Very good, videos I've watched on that, on Japan. Once again, a little bit deeper than your Abroad in Japan offers, right? How the Yakuza is transitioning. That's interesting to me. Felsu for 10 says, my last chat was in reference for the anime Kiniro Mosaic. Oh, cool. Maybe I'll watch it. A wonderful show about a Japanese girl who loves all things Western, especially blondes. Well, I can agree with that one. Reverse yellow fever for real, for real. Well, to reverse yellow fever, Tiger Beer since 1932, brewed in Nonthaburi. Oh, that's good. That's actually really good. Thank you guys for hitting the goal. Very, very based of you. You guys supporting the long We are crazy here on the Legal Mindset. Prost. I saw some German there in the chat. Appreciate you. Open the can, Andrew. It's open. It's open. Thank you for the 10 there, and appreciate everybody. Let me go check on Kick. Make sure we're all caught up there. We're all good. We're all good. Since it doesn't interact, we got to make sure that kind of work on interoperability. It may be changing platforms here, but thank you guys for all that support there. And also shout out to the mods. They're doing a great job over there on all of the platforms. Okay. Charlie Spurs says, imagine Yakuza with tech bro tattoos. Bro, that's actually what's going to happen. That's actually what's going to happen. Of course, I say that having tattoos myself. All right. Judgment. Here's my judgment. Pearl has a potential defamation case against Chris Broad, right? Japanese law is very permissive regarding defamation. She can sue him if she wants to. She can. However, based on the fact pattern and what it is and the cost and the time and the procedural burden and perhaps even some backlash against her because she might attract more haters, I don't think it's worth it for her. And I don't think she's going to do it because I don't think the monetary gain would be worth it based on the cost. And procedurally, even though the elements are simple, if she screws it up in any way, Chris can actually maybe reclaim his costs. Like if maybe he won the defense, he might even be able to reclaim his costs, or she might have to come out of pocket for her costs, her attorney's costs, which while there is a case, does she want to pay for it? And Chris, I'm not saying he would. So understand, I said Chris could win a public interest defense, meaning it depends on how the judge views it, how the judge interprets it. I'm not a Japanese lawyer, right? Is it possible? Yes. Maybe it's a coin flip. Maybe it's a 25% chance that he wins and 75% chance Pearl wins. I can't really give the percentage, but there's a chance that he could win a defense because he could say, oh, she's attacking the honor of Japan and she's defaming the country as a whole based on her portrayal. So one thing he did was he found a graffiti that she did indeed add, it appears, based on one of his images that she may have photoshopped in graffiti to make it look a little bit worse than it was. Misrepresentation, perhaps a public interest in correcting that, maybe. But here's the other thing. Pearl needs to be careful of Japanese privacy law violations in the future. And Japan is being overly portrayed as falling apart by social media, YouTubers, and X. And the misrepresentation is genuinely misleading ignorant Westerners and weebs. And look, I'm a weeb. I love my weebs. I don't want anybody taking advantage of weebs other than me. Only I'm allowed to exploit the weebs. Nobody else can exploit the weebs like I do. Only I'm allowed to do that. Anybody else who exploits the weebs, it should be banned. It should be banned, right? And I don't like people that are setting a image of Japan that's in any way misleading people into thinking that it's a bad place. In fact, I think that Japan will remain a great place even with economic decline because they have so much infrastructure and they've invested so much in infrastructure. So even when they decline economically, I think they'll still be all right because they've already got so much in place. And even if a debt bubble bursts, etc., right, you've still got all that stuff that's physically in place in Japan. And I think that's one thing. Let's see. Let's get this right here. L Andy 550 gifted a membership. Appreciate that. We have guns. That's true. America does have guns, and countries are generally better off with guns. That's my perspective, right? Okay. So the guys, that is my verdict today on this. Once again, I think and I'll say this. That's my legal pronouncement. Morally, if you want to ask me morally, separate from legally, yeah, I do think Chris Broad did do something that, once again, morally there, he shouldn't have done with the editing. I think there's a definite no. I think it was stupid strategically from a content creator's perspective, right? But legally, it was a risk he didn't need to take. As a larger content creator, sometimes people can get mad and can make mistakes. And this is certainly a mistake by Chris Broad. It's a strategic mistake. It was an overall tactical mistake. So I think that was a problem on his side. I don't think Pearl's going to come through and finish him with this, but I do think she's gained a lot of notoriety off it. And perhaps she's gained some positive attention and traction through those others that have supported her on this. I do think, one thing that could make it right is Chris Broad giving an apology, right? And issuing an official apology, maybe a statement saying, hey, I'm sorry, I may have misrepresented her position here. And, understanding he's very politically minded here and has a political mindset, and perhaps it's in opposition to her. Also, it's been said that his wife may dislike her. So there may be some personal stuff going on there, but, just clear the air, admit you made a mistake, and probably everything can be avoided from the legal perspective. So that's what I got on that, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to have one more tomorrow on the 23rd, and we'll be taking a break for Christmas Eve and for Christmas Day. So you guys can enjoy the holiday with your family and friends. And I hope you guys have a wonderful time. If you ever have any questions about anything, whether it's Japan or otherwise, make sure to catch me on my email or my X. Until next time, guys, take care, and I'll catch you later.
You are cold. Coping the ceiling, you just can't believe what you're seeing. It's you coping the ceiling, the truth it is all day, and now you are more than